good afternoon and welcome to TNTV. We are live on Real Issue again. Today we'll have a guest in the studio who will be talking with me. We'll be discussing how effective anti-corruption war by the federal government is, how far they've gone and how effective have they really achieved what the aim of the war is actually. So right after this break, I'll be introducing you to my guest. I'll be introducing my guest to you rather, and you'll get to meet him. So stay tuned right after this break.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Thank you again for joining us. If you're just coming in, today's topic is the federal government's anti-corruption war. How effective has this been? Don't forget to join us, discuss this issue. Leave your comments and observation in the comment sections below on your social media. Don't forget you can also watch us live on our Facebook and our website www.tntvonline.com. With me in the studio today I have Barrister Moses Daniel Majizu. Barrister Moses is a young lawyer and is also from Rivers State. Thank you very much, Barrister, for coming.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. I'm glad being here to discuss on this topical issue. The pleasure is mine.
Okay. With me, we'll be discussing and talking about how this is. We are all aware of what is really going on in the country right now about the anti-corruption war. We've seen so many progress made so far, and we also know where they're lagging behind. So the barrister, I'll be asking the barrister, what do you think about corruption in Nigeria? When they say corruption, what do you think about it, especially when it has to do with Nigeria?
Corruption generally, it's an endemic disease, and more so in Nigeria, it is something that's eating deep into the fabric of the society. It is alarming, growing at an alarming rate. It's been endemic, it's been there over time, and it's something that's served as a disaster to our nation, our economy, our societal welfare, our political future, and our generation yet to born. That's what corruption is, exemplified in the challenges we are facing in today's society.
Okay, thank you very much. You're also aware of the work the EFCC has been doing so far, how they've clamped down on some corrupt officials, mostly government officials who've served under previous government's administration. You're aware of what they've been doing. How effective is this war so far? Do you think the EFCC is really trying? Are they going in the right direction?
Well, with respect to the anti-corruption fight by President Muhammadu Buhari, it is crystal clear to adduce, suffice it to say that the anti-corruption war by Mr. President has recorded much success. I want you to look at it from this angle. Before now, there has not been any form of fight, serious fight, or serious challenge to the corruption pedo we are facing in the society. Okay. So, if you look at the inception of President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, right from 2015 May precisely, you find out that lots have been happening in the fight against corruption. First of all, I would like to draw 5 instances, 5 models, 5 indices within which to judge the effectiveness and success of President Muhammadu Buhari's fight against corruption. One is the issue of social reorientation. You find out that there has been societal reorientation in the mindset of Nigerians. Nigerians are now afraid of corruption. Political class are now afraid of corruption. Those who are stolen are returning, stolen funds, stolen loot to the government, to the coffers of the government. That's to show you that the fight, anti-graft fight by President Buhari has been successful, or the least to say, is successful in this range.
Okay, if you're to rate the performance of the FCC so far, what would you rate it? Let's say from a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be?
So far, I will give the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission a 7.
7 out of 10?
Yes.
All right, so do you think the current, like we've all witnessed it in this country, we've heard so many things that the current fight is a witch hunt of political opponents. Do you think this is true?
That's not correct. Politically speaking, economically speaking, and otherwise, that's not correct. You don't determine, there is no indices for making that comment. There is no proven ground for making that assertion. It is usual, even in developed countries and developing countries, that once such fight is being taken to the corrupt politicians, there are bound to be excuses. What we are witnessing in Nigeria today, with reference to persons adducing baseless and frivolous reason to the fact that the anti-corruption fight of Mr. President is one-sided, is something we have always seen in other countries. So it's nothing new. It's nothing new, and that is absolutely untrue and not correct.
We've known Desiani Alison Madueke, former petroleum minister.
Yes.
We've heard how the FCC has seized numerous landed properties from her.
Definitely.
And a whole lot of money from her as well. She recently forfeited about over $150 something million to the federal government.
Yes.
These are people who served under the previous government.
Yes.
Apart from that, we've also known of recently Andrew Yakubu. A whole lot of money was recovered from him too.
Definitely.
These are people who served under previous government as well.
Yes.
We are yet to see any fight per se against people who are not in the past government, or who have never been in government, or let's say they've been in government but not under the past government. Okay, let's bring it to the present administration now. We've heard of so many corrupt practices, but we're yet to hear of any prosecution. We are yet to hear that they've been under investigation or any sort of thing like that. Do you still believe this is not a witch hunt, like some people are saying in the media and all over the country?
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Statutorily speaking, individuals do not have the power to make arrest or prosecute or carry out investigation of perceived individuals who are accused of corruption. There is a statutory empowered body in the name of the Economic and Finance Crimes Commission, EFCC, which has been statutorily mandated to carry out such investigation. Also, we have the ICPC, which has been created under the ICPC Act. These bodies are mandated. Individuals are not mandated to carry out investigation. It is only these bodies that are mandated to carry out this investigation of perceived criminal-minded politicians or individuals who have looted the treasury. And I must tell you that EFCC is regulated by law, and there are guidelines, there are laid down rules and procedures for them to adopt. So if there's any person that has been alleged to have stolen from public coffers, it is only the independent, the ICPC and the EFCC that are mandated by law to carry out these investigations. And if these persons have been so investigated by EFCC and they have found out that there is no proven fact, no proven ground to prosecute these persons, then so be it. We are not empowered by law. They are empowered by law. So I think the only body that is empowered to carry out such is the EFCC and the ICPC. So the comments being peddled around that the fight of President Muhammadu Buhari is a one-sided affair is not correct, because they are not in line with the law. They are not in line with the laid down rules of the EFCC and the ICPC Act.
Okay. Do you have any idea about how EFCC actually chooses who they fight, who they prosecute? You know, there are so many cases of alleged corrupt officials.
Yes.
Yeah. And obviously, in the eyes of a common man, they are corrupt. But in the eyes of EFCC, since they are not under investigation, since they are not there's no enough evidence to prove that they are corrupt. How does EFCC choose who to prosecute and who not to prosecute, even after somebody has been indicted or accused of being corrupt?
Well, thank you very much. Let me make a correction. EFCC in no way has the right, does not have the right to choose. It's not a selective process. They are, like I said earlier, they are laid down rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Now, if an allegation has been made against an individual, the EFCC has officers to investigate such allegation. And once investigation is carried out, and there are sufficient reasons and grounds for which the EFCC can, move that matter forward, then such person will be invited first of all for questioning. Once the person is questioned, then the normal laid down rules and procedure will be adopted. So it lies in the bosom of the EFCC to prosecute. And if anybody has not been prosecuted based on public outcry, it means that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has not seen any ground to prosecute such persons. I think we should leave it within the ambit of the EFCC to prosecute. Ours is to make recommendations to the EFCC, but not to carry out the job of the EFCC.
Okay, I'm asking you this question because these are the questions going through the mind of ordinary Nigerians. They're asking, why would it be people from this political party or from this political class are always the people under investigation? That's the question, right? Yeah, on the street, the common man on the street will tell you, this person is corrupt, this person is corrupt, but these people are not being prosecuted. So I want to know how are we going to convince these people? There are some people who don't know how the EFCC operates, like you said. They have the backing of the law,
yes,
to prosecute and to investigate whosoever they want to investigate.
Absolutely correct.
And there are so many people who don't know how these things work, but they see corrupt officials dining and whining with the present government, but they are not being prosecuted. How are we going to explain to these people this is how EFCC operates, and since there is no enough evidence to prove that these people are corrupt, they can't be prosecuted?
Now, first of all, let me make an assertion. Before a person can be arrested or prosecuted, rather, there must be sufficient evidence. Evidence is the bedrock of any prosecution. Without evidence, there is nothing the prosecution can do. And EFCC is a commission that is empowered by law and also regulated by law. They can't go outside the provisions of the law. Otherwise, whatever is being done by the EFCC will amount to futility. So in this regard, evidence, it's primarily the bedrock of any investigation to be carried out. There must be sufficient evidence acquired or within the confines of the EFCC before investigations are carried out. If you see a politician today and you perceive him to be corrupt, perhaps there are no evidence. Perhaps there are no sufficient grounds for EFCC to instigate, a prosecution. In that regard, such person will be deemed not to be corrupt. But I am not saying that they are saints within President Buhari's cabinet. We are not saying that. But rather, what we are saying is that the law must follow its due course. And it is a charge to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to sufficiently do what the law has empowered them to do, without fear or favor or disfavor. Nobody should be exempted in the fight against corruption in Nigeria. And that's my own opinion. For me, if you're found guilty, you go for it. But there is a caveat there. There must be sufficient ground to grant the investigation and prosecution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If you're just joining us, we are discussing the effectiveness of President Muhammadu Buhari's anti-corruption war, how effective it is. You're free to join us in this discussion. But right after this break, we're going to be talking more and more about how the EFCC has done. Have they actually done up to the expectation Nigerians are having? Is the corruption war or fight only at the federal government? What about our state and our local government? We'll discuss more of this when we come back from this break. Stay with us.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. report suspicious persons, objects and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Thank you for joining us again. I'm in the studio with Barrister Daniel Moses, and we've been talking about the anti-corruption war of the federal government of Nigeria, how the EFCC has been fighting and the ICPC. Are they really doing enough? Before we talk about how this fight has been in the state level and the local government level, I would like to draw the attention of my guest, Barrister Moses, to something we've been talking about before we went on break. I was talking about how some people think that the corruption war currently going on is lopsided, it's one-sided. We have examples of the current chief of staff to the president, who at one point was alleged to have received about $500 million from MTN on one shady deal like that. And there has been another one, the secretary to the government of the federation, Dabache Lawal, who was indicted as well. There were papers and he was indicted, but the president cleared him and then he wasn't prosecuted. Do you still believe, why are these people not prosecuted in the first place? After that way, I mean, the scale of allegation on them, they're still not prosecuted. Do you still believe that this war is not lopsided? And can you just explain to us and the viewers why these people were not being prosecuted today?
Okay. What I want to say in this regard is something like the anti-corruption war of Mr. President is for all and sundry, without exception.
Okay.
Whether you belong to the All Progressive People's Congress or to the People's Democratic Party or any other party whatsoever. The allegations made against the persons you've just mentioned, the SGF and other persons involved in President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet, remains allegation until substantive evidence has been obtained.
Yeah, can I just cut in?
Okay.
When it has to do with, I'm telling you, I'm speaking from the perspective of an ordinary Nigerian.
Yes.
When it has to do with somebody in government, it's always a mere allegation. But when it has to do with somebody who is not within the confines of power, the EFCC will quickly swing into action and get these people prosecuted. I'm not saying these people obviously are corrupt people. The people under investigation right now, these people being prosecuted, they're obviously corrupt people. A lot has been recovered from them. So they are corrupt. I'm not saying they are not corrupt. But why is it that EFCC is always very fast in prosecuting these people, in investigating these people? But when it has to do with people in power, it becomes a mere allegation. It's not just now. Previous administration has always been like that. They always go after people who are not in their political party or people who are not in power. Why is it always like that?
Now let me cut you short on that. Sorry to cut you short on that. You will remember the much pronounced saying of Mr. President that I am for everyone and I am for nobody. Now, that essence tells you the anti-corruption stance of Mr. President. How be it, there has been allegations. Yes, we agree to that fact. Like I said earlier, there is no one that is immune from the anti-corruption fight. If these persons, the SGF and other persons alleged to have been involved in corruption scandals, are found culpable, then they should be dealt with. Nobody is above the law, not even Mr. President. So every person, any person, whether in the cabinet of Mr. President or outside, must face the law. The law is bigger. The law is supreme. In this regard, I'm not going to hold a brief for the SGF or persons working under President Muhammadu Buhari. What I'm trying to say is that President Muhammadu Buhari's anti-corruption fight so far has been straight out of the rocks. It has given us a leeway. It has been so crystal clear for every Nigerian to know that President Muhammadu Buhari is doing well in terms of anti-corruption fight. However, I believe that there is much more that can be done, in the sense that whoever is found capable, whether in his cabinet or not, must be brought to the book, So for now, let's watch and see whether EFCC will take a definite stance. I know it's been a few months ago when that incident was recorded and nothing has been done. But believe you me, I sincerely believe in the anti-corruption fight of Mr. President. And whoever is involved must be held responsible, must be subject to the law, must be made to face the music and not exempted or shielded away from prosecution. That's my take on that.
You are aware of, Tafa, Ricky Tafa,
Ricky Tafa,
a legal practitioner.
An SAN.
Yes, who's been prosecuted right now for alleged bribe, collecting bribe from someone.
Yes.
And he said the money he got from the person was actually a gift from the person to him.
Yes.
And I don't know if the person confirmed it. The person that gave him the money confirmed it was a gift actually.
Okay.
But this person is under investigation.
Yes. Yes.
And he said it was a gift to him.
Yes.
Recently we had President Buhari's lawyer given a bribe, no, gift actually.
Alleged to have given.
Yeah. But nothing is happening. How do we explain that to Nigeria?
I think that issue was just raised recently.
Recently, yes.
And we are still waiting for the EFCC to carry out an investigation on that and give Nigerians, tell Nigerians the outcome of such investigation.
Do you think the EFCC is actually going to take this seriously?
I really believe in the EFCC. But my only challenge with the EFCC is to the effect that the EFCC chairman is an appendage of Mr. President. And I believe that the law should have made him a neutral person from Mr. President. And in that regard, he may dance to the tune of Mr. President. But in this regard, I believe Mr. President is clean in the fight against corruption. And I believe the EFCC chairman knows his onus in this matter. And I think Nigerians will hear more about this corruption stance concerning the lawyer to Mr. President.
Okay, now let's come down to the state and the local government level. You rated EFCC 7 out of 10.
Definitely.
Do you think they are working at the state and federal government level?
My challenge
I mean the local government
my
level.
challenge, not even at the local government, even at the state government. Now, my challenge with EFCC is that it is not domesticated enough. If you look at Nigeria, you find out that we have local government chairmen who are not doing their job, who are not acting in line with their oath of office. Now, how many of these persons have been investigated? None. You look at persons who are serving even in local government, how many of them have been investigated? Local government commission. The EFCC, I think, is not wholesome in this pursuit, the fight against corruption. So my advice to the EFCC is that they should do a holistic approach in the fight against corruption. Not only at the federal level, not only at the state level, but also at the local government level. Well, if you look at the state level, you find out that even the governor is immune. He can be investigated, but he cannot be prosecuted because of the immunity clause as provided under the Constitution. How be it, other members of his cabinet can be prosecuted. So EFCC should take up the mantle to prosecute persons and bring them to book. So for me, at the federal level, they are trying, like I said, 7 over 10 earlier, but at the state and local level, the presence of EFCC is not fair at all.
Okay, so in general, the general performance of EFCC nationwide is still 7 out of 10.
Well, still 7 out of 10.
Despite the fact that they're not doing anything at the state and local
government level. Still 7 out of 10. Because if you compare, the EFCC was not created now. Yeah. EFCC was created during the administration of what's it called, Olusegun Obasanjo, and it trickled down to Jonathan's regime, it trickled down to Muhammad Buhari's regime. But you find that out of these 3 regimes, the most active, including that of Yar'Adua, has been that of President Muhammad Buhari. EFCC was like a toothless dog. It could neither bark nor bite. But you find out that in this administration, this current administration, there has been plethora of persons, high-profile persons. And like I said, there are 5 indices in which you can ascertain whether the anti-corruption fight of Mr. President is successful or not. That I will give much later in the program.
Okay, currently, there are so many people under prosecution, but none has been jailed yet. He said EFCC has been very effective under Buhari. Remember that it was under Obasanjo that James Ibori was jailed for corruption.
James Ibori was not jailed under the Nigerian legal system. It was in Nigerian court. In fact,
but I know the fight started under Obasanjo, right?
Sorry?
The fight against James Ibori's corrupt practices started under Obasanjo.
It started, but that was not the causative agent of his incarceration in prison. He fled Nigeria. Even the charges filed against James Ohanefe Ibori were quashed by the Nigerian courts. It took the intervention of the British police to get him arrested, and he was jailed by the British court. So what are we talking about here?
Do you think the Nigerian legal system is a threat to this fight against corruption? Because so far they've not been able to jail any high-profile Nigerian accused of corruption.
Yeah, you have a point there. The Nigerian legal system is not tilted towards supporting corruption. Towards supporting the fight against corruption, because it's a regular court that handles all that issues. So if you bring anti-corruption fights, anti-corruption cases to court, they will take a long time before justice can be dispensed. And anti-corruption cases are sui generis. By that I mean they are peculiar, they are of their own unique nature. There should be, economic and financial courts created for the sole purpose of handling, such matters, such financial matters, some anti-corruption matters. But if we take these anti-corruption matters to the courts, what happens? They are delayed, frivolous injunctions are sought, applications are sought, and unnecessary delays are created. And you find that such a matter could go on 2 years, 3 years. But if you take them to special courts created for sole purpose of anti-corruption cases, you find that justice could be delivered within weeks. And that is the sole purpose.
Okay, do you know that it is also in these regular courts that petty thieves, people on the street who steal 20, 100,000 naira, are also jailed within days of their prosecution? Now, why is it always difficult to jail high-profile people in Nigeria? Now,
the nature of investigation involved is highly critical. The nature of evidence that is needed, these matters, they are tactical and technical in their own right. Yeah. You find out that you find it difficult to prove the fact that someone is indicted for anti-corruption matters. Why? Because of the technicality involved. That's why special courts need to be created in order to bring these persons to book. That's my own take on that.
Okay, what do you think is the major setback for FCC to perform optimally?
One, the major setback is the law. Why I said is the law is that currently there is a whistleblowing bill in the National House of Assembly that has passed its second reading. And Mr. President, in the Federal Executive Council meeting, has adopted the whistleblowing, though not backed by law, but just like an administrative force, to encourage Nigerians to come up with, evidence against perceived corrupt politicians, and in which these Nigerians that give this information are entitled to 2.5 or 5% of the proceeds or properties. So the major challenge facing the EFCC is the cooperation of Nigerians and the law.
Okay, EFCC is set up by law.
Yes, it's set up by law.
Telling me that the Nigerian law is fighting against something set up by law
now
in Nigeria. The
society is dynamic, it changes. And even as society changes, there is bound to be sophistication in crime. So over time, since when the EFCC was created till now, you find out that it is not in line, it is not in tune with current practices. Crimes perpetrated, economic crimes perpetrated. That's why the law needs to be reviewed. The National Assembly should do something about that in order to give EFCC more teeth, not only to back, but also to bite.
Okay. Just before we go, I'll ask you this last question. Do you think corruption is ever going to end in Nigeria?
Yes.
How are you going to achieve that?
There is nothing that has a beginning that doesn't have an end. Corruption is a national and worldwide issue. But countries over time, UK, even America, they have tried their best to whittle down the effect of corruption. And if you follow the current international trend, Nigeria will be able, especially the Whistleblowing Act, if it is passed by the National House of Assembly, it will encourage Nigerians to come up with facts, come up with information, so that every person who is alleged to have stolen will be investigated by the EFCC. At the moment, we don't have the Whistleblowing Act. Like I said, it's still passing the second reading in the National House of Assembly. So, if Nigerians are encouraged to come up with this policy, to bring information to the EFCC, then corruption will be whittled down. And also cooperation of Nigerians, all are sundry. Because this corruption is something that is endemic. It has eaten deep into the fabric of our nation. So there must be a massive fight against corruption. It is not something to be left at the coffers of Mr. President. No! It is a collective effort. It needs a collective effort for it to be whittled down totally.
Okay, we all need to work together to end corruption in Nigeria.
Exactly.
What is your last word to a common Nigerian on the street who is also expected to join this war against corruption. What do you think a common man on the street should do in helping the federal government to end this corruption war?
Well, straight to the point. There should be transparency.
Yeah, just very short.
Okay, transparency. Nigeria is ours. It's not for anyone. If we destroy our country via corruption, we lose out. So transparency is the watchword. Whether you're a market woman, whether you work in the bank, you work in the industry, transparency is the watchword. And let's build Nigeria for Nigerians. Thank you. Okay,
thank you very much, Barrister Daniel, for coming. And my viewers, thank you also for staying out there watching and contributing to this program. You've heard from the barrister. You, as a Nigerian, you have a role to play as well to end this this corruption that we're currently facing. It's depriving us of so many good lives that we're supposed to have ordinarily as citizens of this country. But because of how corrupt the country is, it's not going the way we actually want it to be. Just contribute your own part. Thank you very much, and don't forget to leave your comments on the comment section below, and also watch us on our website www.tntvonline.com. Don't forget to join us again next week Friday 2 p.m. for another edition of Real Issues on TNTV. Thank you very much. Yeah.